This is a Spanish science fiction movie released in 2023 based on the concept of time travel. The story is simple yet engaging and will keep you entertained. The film begins in Spain in the year 1990, where we meet a mischievous young boy named Teo, who loves playing football. After a match, he goes to collect his notebook from a boy who writes his homework in exchange for video games. Teo, carrying his belongings, rushes home but climbs up a pipe instead of using the front door to sneak into his room. At home, we see his elder brother, Oscar, who is responsible, mature, and takes care of the house. Oscar also has a pet turtle that he loves dearly. When Oscar enters Teo's room, he finds Teo already there and realizes he must have been up to some mischief. Oscar notices an injury on Teo's leg and bandages it while advising him not to leave the house without informing anyone. Later, as Oscar is studying in his room, Teo asks him why he spends so much time reading boring books. Oscar replies that he wants to find their mother. Their mother had mysteriously disappeared one day, and no one knew where she went. While others believed she ran away with someone, Oscar was convinced she discovered a time portal and was traveling through time. Their mother was a scientist who had dedicated her life to researching time portals. Teo found Oscar's belief absurd, but Oscar was determined to find her someday. We are then introduced to Oscar's friend, Alina, whom Oscar secretly liked but never confessed his feelings to. Alina's father, David, owned a department store and often told Oscar stories from different countries. One day, Oscar notices Alina and her friends planning to watch a movie together. Alina invites Oscar to join them, but Teo, trying to be mischievous, tells her Oscar is too busy to come. This frustrates Oscar because he wanted to go with Elena, so he decides to get back at Teo. That night, when Teo sneaks back home through the pipe after the movie, he finds their grandmother waiting for him. Oscar had told her everything, and Teo gets scolded. Furious, Teo plans to take revenge on Oscar. While exploring one of their mother's research books, Teo starts building a rocket. During this process, he finds a photo of their mother in a red dress standing on the roof. He keeps the photo in his pocket and hides a paper list in a dictionary to make it difficult for Oscar to find. Teo goes to the roof and starts eating a banana, throwing the peel aside. Suddenly, a portal opens, and the banana peel disappears into it. Shocked, Teo begins throwing other objects into the portal, which also vanish. Astonished by this discovery, Teo rushes to tell Oscar, but Oscar, upset about the state of his books, starts arguing with him. In anger, Teo throws Oscar's beloved turtle off the roof. The turtle disappears into the portal, leaving Oscar heartbroken. He puts up missing posters and becomes deeply upset, which makes Teo feel guilty. That night, Teo decides to bring the turtle back. He jumps into the portal and lands in a strange place filled with all the objects he had thrown earlier. He finds the turtle, brings it home, and quietly goes to bed, thinking everything is back to normal. The situation seemed normal, but everything had changed drastically. The next morning, while Teo was still sleeping, Oscar got ready for work. Oscar was no longer a child. He had grown into an adult with a beard because it was no longer 1990. It was the year 2022. Teo had unknowingly traveled to the future through the portal, but he was unaware of this. In 2022, Oscar was a physics professor. That day, he went to David's department store to buy groceries, where he also met Alina. Alina, now divorced, was a mother of 2 children. Despite this, Oscar had never been able to confess his feelings to her. Alina worked as an English teacher at the same university where Oscar taught. At home, Teo peeked outside and quickly showed Oscar the turtle to get his attention. Their grandmother, now very old, was shocked to see Teo. Teo himself was confused about what was going on. When Oscar returned home and saw Teo, he fainted. When he regained consciousness, he asked, "Is it really you, Teo?" Confused, Teo replied, "How do you know me? And who are you?" Oscar realized this was his younger brother, and after some conversation, Teo understood that he had traveled through time and landed in 2022. Teo told Oscar that this had all happened because of him, as he had entered the portal to retrieve his turtle. Oscar, skeptical of time travel, found it hard to believe until Teo showed him a photograph of their mother standing on the roof. Teo explained that he had jumped off the same roof and ended up in the future. This meant there was a time portal on the roof. They both went to the roof to test the portal, but it was no longer there. Oscar then theorized that the portal's entry and exit points couldn't exist simultaneously. The entry point was in 1990, and the exit was in 2022. Now, they needed to find another portal whose entry was in 2022 and exit was in 1990. Oscar took Teo to meet a senior professor to seek help, but the professor dismissed the idea of time travel as fiction. Meanwhile, Teo was amazed by the modern world. He saw a phone for the first time and couldn't believe how much the world had changed. Later, Oscar asked Teo about a list that could help locate the portals. Teo admitted he had hidden the list in a dictionary out of anger on the day he found it. When Oscar asked their grandmother about the dictionary, she revealed that she had given it to David. Oscar went to David's store to retrieve the dictionary, asking Teo to stay home. However, Teo secretly left the house and wandered into a mall, fascinated by the new gadgets. In his curiosity, he accidentally broke a VR set. The store called Oscar to resolve the situation. Oscar scolded Teo and then took him along to meet David. At the store, David revealed that the dictionary was at his house. Just then, Elena arrived. Teo, surprised to see her, said, "You've become even more beautiful." Elena, confused, asked, "Who are you?" To cover up, Oscar quickly said that Teo was his cousin's son. Elena invited Oscar and Teo to her home to collect the dictionary. While there, Teo started playing video games with Elena's children, who teased him for knowing so little about technology and gadgets, making Teo feel bad. Meanwhile, Oscar found the list in the dictionary. The list contained coordinates, which Oscar and Teo used to try and locate different time portals. However, Oscar's calculations were slightly off, so they needed to be corrected to find the correct portal. Later, Teo asked Oscar about his friends and why he always seemed so lonely. He also asked why Oscar had never confessed his feelings to Elena. Oscar, feeling disheartened, replied that Elena now had 2 children, and their relationship could no longer work. Teo wanted to see Oscar and Elena together, so he secretly used Oscar's phone to invite Elena to dinner at their home. When Elena arrived with her family, Oscar was surprised but quickly realized this was Teo's doing. During dinner, Elena and Teo got along very well, and the next day, she took him shopping. In the changing room, Teo started acting like Madonna and called himself her fan. This made Elena suspicious, as Madonna was a celebrity from the 1990s. She quickly realized Teo was the same boy who had disappeared during her childhood. When she confronted him, Teo revealed the truth, leaving Elena shocked. Elena went to Oscar to ask about this, and he confirmed that Teo had indeed traveled through time to reach 2022. While discussing the time portals, Oscar explained that there are 3 types of portals. 1. Portals that allow travel between specific fixed time periods. 2. Portals that allow travel to any random timeline. 3. The most dangerous portals, where anyone entering gets trapped and cannot exit, essentially being stuck in that timeline forever. To send Teo back to 1990, they needed to find the first type of portal, the one that connected specifically to 1990. Elena decided to help Oscar with his research, using the coordinates written by Oscar's mother. However, Elena was worried that if Teo returned to 1990, it might change the past. In 1990, Teo had disappeared, which had created the timeline where Elena met her husband and had her children. She feared that if Teo returned to his original timeline, her children might never exist. Oscar reassured her that they would find a solution without affecting the present, but Teo overheard their conversation. Feeling guilty, Teo decided to take matters into his own hands. Teo showed the coordinates list to Elena's children, Brenda and Nathan, and explained his situation. He admitted he didn't understand modern technology, but promised them they would witness something miraculous if they helped. Excited by the idea, Brenda and Nathan agreed to assist him. Using a map, they pinpointed a location where Teo believed a time portal existed. When they reached the spot, Teo was overjoyed and jumped into the portal. Shocked and curious, Brenda and Nathan followed him. When they emerged from the portal, they initially thought nothing had changed because everything looked similar. But then Nathan pointed out that the city behind them had disappeared and only mountains were visible. That's when they realized they had traveled to 1950, not 1990. Teo had accidentally discovered the second type of portal, which transported travelers to a random timeline. Back in 2022, Elena called Oscar in panic, telling him that Teo and her children were missing. Oscar suspected they had found the portal and might now be in the past. Determined to bring them back, he decided to find the portal and follow them to 1990. In 1950, Brenda and Nathan found that their gadgets weren't working, and they were getting hungry. They devised a plan to survive. Brenda blindfolded herself and wore wireless headphones, while Teo held up a sign with a word written on it. Nathan would read the word and communicate it to Brenda through the headphones, making it appear as though Brenda could magically guess the word. This trick amazed the people they encountered, and it became a way for them to earn food and shelter while they figured out how to return to their original timeline. They earned a little money from their act, but their performance caught the attention of the police. Sensing danger, Teo whistled to alert the group, and they all ran. During their escape, a stranger helped them and took them to a hidden location. Meanwhile, in 2022, Oscar and Elena found a time portal at a construction site that could take them to 1990. Holding each other's hands, they jumped into the portal. Their guess was correct, and they landed in 1990. Upon arrival, they were in disbelief, feeling like they were in a dream. Missing posters of Teo were everywhere, as he had vanished during this time. In 1950, the stranger who helped Teo and the children turned out to be a member of a rebel gang hiding from the government. The gang leader questioned why the man had brought the children. The man explained that they knew the gang's secret code word. Teo was shocked and asked what the code word was. The man explained that the whistle Teo had used was the gang's code. Teo was even more surprised when a young woman from the gang arrived, and he recognized her. It was his grandmother when she was young. Teo realized that his grandmother had been part of this rebel gang, fighting against the government's unjust policies and working for the welfare of the people. Overwhelmed, Teo hugged her, but didn't reveal who he was. Instead, he claimed that he and the children were orphans looking for shelter. His grandmother agreed to let them stay with her. Back in 1990, Oscar and Elena searched for the children and went to Oscar's house. They found it empty, but suddenly heard someone approaching. Frightened, they hid in a closet. It turned out to be the 1990 version of Oscar, who was deeply distressed over Teo's disappearance. Seeing his younger self so heartbroken, 2022 Oscar was deeply moved. In 1950, Teo and the children realized that escaping this timeline would be very difficult without the coordinates for another portal. Teo felt at home because of his grandmother, but it was a challenging situation for Brenda and Nathan. Teo convinced his grandmother to take a photo with them, including Brenda and Nathan. He asked her to always keep the photo safe and promised it was important. His grandmother agreed and promised to have the photo framed. In 1990, Oscar and Elena discovered an old photo of Teo's grandmother, which suddenly changed before their eyes. The new version of the photo included Teo, Brenda, and Nathan. Using the photo, Oscar noted down the coordinates of the gang's location. However, to reach 1950, they first needed to return to 2022, as the portal leading to 1950 was only accessible from there. Oscar and Elena used the rooftop portal to return to 2022, and then, using the coordinates from the photo, they traveled to 1950. Upon arriving, they were captured by two gang members. Teo had anticipated this and had informed the gang that his brother might come looking for him. To confirm their identity, the gang demanded that Oscar use the special whistle code. Oscar knew the whistle because his grandmother had taught it to him, and the gang was convinced he was Teo's brother. They were taken to the gang's hideout, where Elena was overjoyed to reunite with her children. Teo admitted that he enjoyed staying in 1950 and was happy living with his grandmother. Hearing this, Oscar became sad and told Teo that the 1990 version of himself needed him. Oscar explained how much he had missed his only brother and best friend. Moved by Oscar's words, Teo agreed to return. As they prepared to leave, Teo's grandmother arrived. Seeing her younger self, Oscar was shocked. They bid her an emotional farewell and returned to 2022. Now it was time to send Teo back to 1990. Oscar and Elena took Teo to the same rooftop portal where his journey had started. Oscar takes Teo to the construction site where the portal to 1990 is located. Before leaving, Teo looks sad and tells Oscar that he feels safe with him, like being with a father. Oscar comforts him, saying that the 1990 version of himself is also lonely and needs him. He promises Teo that he'll take care of him just like a father would. After one final hug, Teo steps into the portal and returns to 1990. In stories, time travel seems as simple as walking from one street to another, doesn't it? Back in the story, Oscar and their grandmother in 1990 are overjoyed to see Teo. They ask where he had been, and Teo explains that he was kidnapped by a gang but managed to escape. Upon returning, Teo notices that 1990 Oscar is still trying to find their mother and struggling to understand the portals. Seeing this, Teo decides to tell him the truth. He reveals that he found a portal and traveled to the future. When 1990 Oscar finds it hard to believe, Teo shows him the cell phone given to him by the future Oscar. Seeing this futuristic device, 1990 Oscar finally believes him. The two brothers then make a pact to stay away from the portals and live their lives normally. Fast forward to 2022, Oscar and Teo are grown up now. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door. Teo teasingly says, "It's probably Elena. Now you should propose to her." By this time, Elena has gotten divorced, but Teo had never encouraged Oscar to propose to her earlier because Elena had once mentioned that she didn't want to lose her kids. Teo waited until her divorce to bring it up. The scene shifts to an ancient time where a portal suddenly opens and a woman steps out. It's revealed to be Oscar and Teo's mother, who has traveled from the past. This era is shown to be a time of faith and mysticism, where science was seen as magic. It seems that their mother may have learned something in the past that could change the future entirely. And with this dramatic reveal, the film comes to an end.
Make sure to subscribe to Film Reveal Decoder and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. If you have a favorite movie you'd like us to explain next, type "next" in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.